So, anywho, right. Going back to Lupe, what is your second pick?
All right, I could bet nobody's watched this on Netflix. It's a series, On My Block. Because it's about teens.
I watched it, of course. No, I'm just kidding.
So anyway, don't judge me. I finished watching The Kissing Booth 2. The teen in me, it called me. It was a dumb movie. But so this was recommended right after. And oh my God, I was blown away. This is the fact that I'm seeing On My Block after I watched Kissing Booth. It was like a tale of two cities. Because in Kissing Booth, you have teens living in an affluent area, probably a beach community. I don't think they ever say what area. And then you have the kids on my block who are in a South Central place called Free Ridge. I haven't had time to see if that's an actual area in South Central. And it's about friendship, because the Kissing Booth is also about a friendship between a guy and a girl. And as they're growing up, they're not growing apart. They're actually growing closer, but there's a little bit of tug and war. And here it's the same exact thing. It's a friendship between four people. And you have two Latinos and you have two African Americans. And actually one girl is Afro-Latina. And it's just an amazing show. I am shocked. I have not heard of this show. Apparently, it's a very popular show. It was on the top #1 show, I think, in March when it premiered the 4th season. So it's very popular with the teens. I'm just really shocked that they haven't pushed this show, because not only does it take place in South Central, but these are underprivileged kids and these are smart kids. And they're trying to stay away from all the gangs and the trouble, because they want to have a future. They want to go to college. They want to study. They want to get out of the hood. And so you have all of those themes in there. And there's a running gag. Whenever there's a gunshot, they always try to name the type of gun. And it's just satire done really, really well. It's a great balance. I mean, it is a very funny show. And the influence here is the Goonies, if you can believe it. The Goonies, but set in an urban setting. And basically, they go on a treasure hunt. And it's a robbery that happened, of course, in the video. It's a robbery that happened years ago, and it's like a myth that there's this money laying around. So they have to find a way to find this money, not because they want to save somebody's house, but in this case, they want to save this kid named Cesar, played by Diego Tinoco. And he's basically lives with his brother, who's a gang member. And basically, they're going to jump him into the gang. And the kids are like, no, you can't do that. We're going to go to college. We're going to have better things. But the fact that he has no parents and his dad is in jail, his mom, I think, died of a drug overdose. I mean, some heavy, heavy themes, but they do it with comedy. And it's so well balanced. I'm just shocked that nobody's even nominated this show, because it just deals with so much. It's so layered, especially right now. We're talking about the Black Lives Movement and the fact that these underrepresented kids, they have to fight double time to stay on course. And you have somebody who gets shot, mistaken identity by a gang member, and it gets very emotional. I actually cried. I was like so emotional because I grew up in the barrio, the ghetto. And so a lot of the things that they're going through, I went through that. Whereas my mom's trying to keep me away from the bad elements in the neighborhood. Like, no, you're not going to be this way. You're going to supersede all these bad elements and move up in this world. So it's a great show. I'm surprised nobody's giving it critical acclaim, because it's just so well balanced. The comedy, it's a comedy, but it just deals with all these really heavy, heavy subjects. And so I don't know, I was thinking of writing it in Netflix and be like, what is going on? You guys have a very important show on your hands here, and nobody's talking about it. The kids are talking about it. It's a very popular show. I actually tweeted something about the Kissing Booth having a 3rd movie coming out, and I had all these people react to that. And then somebody said, what about On My Block? And I said, what is On My Block? So actually, that's when I researched it. And then when it popped up on Netflix after watching The Kissing Booth 2, I was like, oh, let me go see what the hype is about. And the hype is real, guys. I mean, for young kids who are growing up in that type of world, it calls to you, because nobody is doing the show. It's kind of like Boys in the Hood, but here you have a more modern tale of it. They're not athletes. These people are very smart. They're very intelligent. They're only 14 years old. But I was shocked at the level of sex. It's like, she's 14, she's having sex. Oh my God, I'm old value. Same thing in the Kissing Booth. They're 16, 17, and they're off having sex. The parents are not even in the picture. And here, the same thing. The parents are not even in the picture. They pretty much do whatever they want. You have Lyft, you have Uber to take you anywhere. So, like I said, a tale of two cities with these two shows. It's really it was kind of like I was so shocked that this happened that it was like a double feature, but yet it's such a tale of two cities. It was just, it kind of took me aback, and I thought, wow, I don't know, check it out if you can. I mean,
I'll tell you, you sold me on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if
I'm definitely gonna watch it. I'm gonna add it to the queue tonight.
Yeah, I don't know if you have to be from the hood to really enjoy it, because all the themes in the show I can relate to. Like, I saw my first murdered body coming out of a house. I mean, that I'll never forget. I think I was 10. My neighbors, my friend who was my neighbor, her brother came home running and he got shot in the leg, and we were freaking out. I think I was like 12. So all that stuff happens in the show, and and we're trying to ignore that stuff, but sometimes you can't ignore it because it's just a reality that's ugly. But yeah, it doesn't define me, but it's still like this show reminds you of like, oh shit, like that is me. So I don't know if somebody who's not from a underprivileged area could relate. So I don't know if, like I said, that's why I maybe love it more so, because I could relate to all that stuff. Like I can't name a gun to this day. Like, what was that? Like, that was a gunfire. I'm like, okay, shit. but they use humor to deal with a lot of stuff, and you have all sorts of emotions on that show. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to bring it up to Netflix, like why they have not submitted this show for awards or some sort of critical acclaim, because especially with what we're going through right now, the subject matter, Black Lives Matter, this is a very important show to show that, hey guys, this is why the Black Lives Matter, because underrepresented kids have to deal with so much, and sometimes they don't get out. And that's what happens to one of the characters. He doesn't get out because the pressures of not having a parent and he's homeless at one point because his brother has banned him from the gangs because he was sent to murder somebody and he couldn't do it. That's not the life he wants. So he was homeless for a while. So, and the kids are working towards getting that money to help him out. I mean, come on, how relevant, how sad is that situation?
Yeah, that's true.
But done in a comedic way.
That's such the double-edged sword of having so many new places that are making things and so many new resources is like, it's great that new experiences and new voices are getting access to tell stories like that. But the flip side is that like, there's also so many things. It's that much harder to cut through the noise and get it seen and get it out there and get the voice out, like with Netflix, it's like they were probably promoting 6 other things that week. Yeah. They can't, but at the same time, like you want people to have that opportunity. And that's what I love hearing about shows like that, where somebody's saying like, I feel like I was represented for the first time, or I feel like this spoke to me in a way that I haven't seen a show do, which I think is great. But at the same time, there's so much stuff now. It's like, how do you get it out there? And it really is like the two sides of the coin, where it's like so many more opportunities to have your voice heard, but also so many other things that are competing. And to break through that. So you sold me on it too. I'm going to check it out.
Like I said, that's why I preface it with, maybe it's because I come from that world, and somebody else might not be able to relate, like the kids on the kissing booth, because all they're worried about is, who I'm going to have sex with. But
that's what I think. But Lupe, that's what I think is really good about stuff like that. Like if it's a really well crafted and well written show, I think it almost like defies that. Like it literally can be anyone who watches it will be able to connect with it. They may not say like, oh, I know this story, I can relate to this like you did. But they might say like, oh, this may give them more perspective of stuff that they see on TV and why these Black Lives Matter, why that movement is so important. I think that's what I love about certain TV shows. I mean, another one that I would recommend on Netflix that no one talks about is, it's White Show, but I'm just saying, is Atypical, which deals with a kid who's on the spectrum and how he's trying to like live a normal life and go to school and go to college, but he struggles with it, and how he has to like pull himself back, and how he tries to have a dating life. And again, like it's new to me because I don't really interact with a lot of people on the spectrum, but it gives me a new appreciation, a new understanding. So I think this show, from the way you describe it, will do the exact same thing to anyone who watches it. They'll have a new appreciation, a new respect, and maybe even have a little bit more sympathy for people in those communities. So, did you see this show? Hear of it?
This one I hadn't. This one had rather sort of passed me again, a little bit like The Lodge. But the way Loopy's talked about it, and like you were saying, if it's a really, really well done show, it's something that everyone should at least check out and try. I mean, you might not connect with it, but you might just love it anyway. I mean, I love the Muppets, but I'm not made of felt. And after talking about unexpected sex scenes, I have to say Muppets Now was really surprising. But
All right, awesome.